Welcome to the Quantum Revenue Expansion Podcast. My name is Ursula, and I'm a sales expert, strategic business coach, and USA Today bestselling author. I love sharing strategies that show you exactly how to turn your annual revenue into your monthly revenue. If you're looking to take a quantum leap in your revenue or sales, your team, your productivity, your success, and your life, then you are meant to be here. My goal in every episode is to help you take your belief that it's possible to 2x or 10x your revenue while working way less to knowing that it is happening right now. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Quantum Revenue Expansion, where we talk about turning your annual income into your monthly income. And you are in for a treat today because I have my girlfriend, Debbie Allen, back with me on the show. She's been on the show before, and I'm excited to have her back because, man, Debbie, we've gotten through great recessions. We've made it through pandemics. We're still standing.
We're still here.
And figuring out the thriving piece of business. So super excited to have you back because today we're going to talk about live events because they are back and stronger than ever. And before we dive in, for the audience, if you don't know Debbie Allen is a professional speaker, business consultant, and event host who has presented in 28 countries and authored 10 best-selling books. She's married to an incredible guy called Greg, who we also adore, who I've gotten to hang out with and gotten to know over the years. And super grateful to have you here. So let's just dive in. Catch us up. Like, what's been going on in this speaker world, in the coaching, the business world since we last chatted?
Yeah, well, I think the last we were chatting is like you were probably speaking at one of my events, and I'm sending my people over there to your incredible workshops and everything else. And we've always done this evolution of reinventing ourselves. It's not complete reinvention. Sometimes it's a tweak because I believe that we both are kind of visionaries in business. We've been in business long enough to see some of the trends, and that's really what I was starting to see last year. So about halfway through last year, I saw the numbers go down online, about half, like dramatic, and I'm like, oh, it's just summer. People are traveling. That's okay. And I was doing a webinar, at least one a month. Right. And there's a lot of work building the landing pages and all. It's, people think you just show up, it's like, it's like a podcast, just show up and talk. Right. There's some prep here. So, and I started seeing those numbers go down, and then fall hits and the numbers are still down. Then the election came and it was like dead in the water. And so, that was happening for a period of months. I was like, even when that happened, I'm like, what? I'm like, I feel like I'm working harder, and then I'm trying to put together offers for lower price for online because it seems like it's getting really competitive. And that's exactly what was happening. It's getting way too oversaturated. So when the pandemic hit, of course, all of us veteran speakers have been around a while. We all went online. The ones that have been doing events all went online. And now we got new people coming in over that, can you believe 5 years over that time, jumping online, coaches and consultants and speakers. So yeah, it's really saturated. So people are like, oh, I'm going to pick and choose. I'm going to sign up and not show up. They're buying less because they have bet more options. So, it's like, why fight this game? And as part of me was like, I don't really enjoy this. It's kind of like you. We did this because that was the choice. We had no idea how long it was going to last. And I was just getting bored with it. Like, I am alive in person. Like, 27 years ago, started my speaking business again, over 500 plus stages. So the online was very kind of hard for me. I did what I could do best. And then I just started getting bored with it. And then somebody said last year to me about that time, what is your absolute brilliance? And I thought that was such a great question. What is your absolute brilliance? What have you done that very few people have done, and you would just continue to do that like forever? And I'm like, well, speaking to sell. Teaching people how to do stages and speaking to sell. That's like, I've gone to New Zealand with no database and filled a room and got, great clients and had a month's vacation in New Zealand. I mean, I've been able to do those things. And I look back as somebody was asking me that, and they're like, well, why, if you want to teach people that, why are you not coming back to live events? And I was like, oh, because I don't want to do it like that anymore. Ursula, can you relate to that? Like, because, I don't want to do it like that anymore. Well,
Yeah,
okay,
like we want
so
people to evolve. Like we've evolved and we've
yeah,
changed, so we
right.
must be in a different place. But where are we? What a brilliant question, though. What do you really love? What are you really
Yeah,
good
what do you
at?
really love? What are you brilliant at? So I was like, I'm getting stagnant. I love my business. I love helping people. What is the thing I want to do? So I started manifesting higher end clients. I want clients that have the money, higher end clients that get it, that really understand the investment into learning that skill, and would stay with me for a period of time to truly master it. And then
Yeah.
I tell you, Ursula, like the gates opened. The gates just opened and they all started coming in. I was like, why didn't I see this before? And
Okay.
the
Wait.
reason I
Wait.
tell that story is because you're listening to this now. There's something you're missing that you
Yeah.
don't even see, in your own
Interesting.
brilliance.
Well, and you. So let's unpack that for a second, because I know my listeners, because this is quantum revenue expansion. So we do talk about things like manifestation, law of attraction, some of those pieces, right? You were saying, Debbie, how you made a shift in the fall of last year because you noticed that there were a lot of people competing kind of at the bottom, right? Competing for those lower costs, like,
Right.
here's more training, here's more training. And you said you made a shift and you're like, you know what? I know what I want. I only want to work with high end clients. And then you manifested that. I want to pull that apart for a second because I know our listeners they just leaned in and they're like,
Hmm.
what did you do? Like, and you said 27 years you've been doing this, right?
Yes.
So what is your manifestation practice? When you made that shift and said, I want to work with higher end clients, like, is it a visual? Is it something you've written down? Is it like, what's your practice for creating?
Yeah, mine is pretty much visual. Like when I'm very good visualizing, and then I can see it play out, and I can do that even for my clients, right? Um, and I started seeing that, and then when somebody says, "Why aren't you doing events anymore?" I was putting it back to the way I used to do it, but I need to do it the way I'm teaching it, like smaller event, big
Mhm.
profits. Anybody can put 20 people in a room, right? If you have any kind of connections, you can put 20 people in the room, and then if you know how to make an offer, and you've mastered this, you're going to make a lot of money in a short amount of time. And so I was like, I need to showcase that where I get a smaller room, smaller space,
Yeah.
limit the number of people, and then just pull the curtain behind, pull back the curtain and say, this is how you do it. This is how much I paid for this. This is not a scary investment. Like if I'm going to do it that way, I can't come out with this big fancy ballroom and the way I used to do it. I'm going to need to showcase people the way you could do it without, worrying about losing a lot of money if you screwed up, right? And
Right.
if you get training, you're not going to screw up. So yeah, so then it was like it opened up my eye to that. And then I think the manifestation a part of it, it was like as simple as getting on a joint venture call, just meeting people because I'm in a mastermind group with a bunch of joint ventures. Getting on a call and like, okay, tell me what you do, and then I'll tell you what I do, and then we'll see how we can work together. And then when I told her what I was doing, because my energy level went up when I'm talking about, I want to go back
Yeah.
into speaking to sell and get clients for that and really help them master that and then help them master putting on their own events. And then she's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need. I need you. She has no idea what my
Mhm.
price is, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
it's the
For
easiest
sure.
client to get. And she was like,
Yeah.
a multimillionaire. And then I went to her event, the first event she had, and then I met somebody else who's a multimillionaire. And it's like, oh, okay, they're hanging out at these high end events. They're not hanging out at the little networking events. So if you're going to go to networking events, go to the higher end networking events if you want to manifest that. So as part of the conversation and me being so confident about doing it, and that whole new excitement came out. I went from being unmotivated and bored, which doesn't happen in my business very much, but I pay attention because if it's not fun anymore, I'm not doing something right. I need to switch.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and so that was what the energy came out of me. And then I think the right people just happened to start showing up. And then I was showing up where they were at too.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And just so everyone knows, I've been through Debbie's training. It's phenomenal. And I still utilize like your speak to sell. I still utilize all of those things. I remember you going through my PowerPoint slides and just like ripping them apart. And if I wasn't strong in myself, I might have been like, whoa, but you were like, this is what you got to change. And then I went and, sold a lot of things. So you were absolutely right.
Because you were
So
already a pro and you're teaching sales. And I'm like, and I got Ursula here. I'm teaching her something and she teaches sales. I'm teaching her about something else, but it's a different model of
it's a
everything.
totally,
Yeah,
yeah, selling person to person is very, very different from selling what from the stage, which is what you're going to show people how to do. And the
exactly.
timing is perfect because we're moving back. I mean, I was sharing with Debbie before, and for our listeners, we're doing our first in-person event since 2019. Like this is what's going to happen this year. This is why you want to be paying attention to what we're talking about. And Debbie, I think one of the powerful things you just said is it's not 600 people in a room anymore.
Hmm.
put 20 in a room, put 50 in a room, and you're going to show people how to do it at a low cost, in a low cost manner, so that there's not a lot of risk involved, but high reward. So before we get there though, so talk a little bit more about, like, you said you were in New Zealand. I love what you said. I heard that. I was in New Zealand and I paid for my whole vacation and I made a lot of money when I was there. Some of our clients are, of course, some of our listeners are from all over the world, right? But they might want to go to other countries and visit
Exactly.
the other parts of the world and have events and have it all paid for. So talk us through a little bit about your events overseas and what that was like and how you did it.
Well, actually, it's you don't have to pay for a vacation when you're a professional speaker. That's the good news.
Right,
I
right.
didn't plan on doing a 3-year world tour in 28 countries. I didn't plan that. That wasn't in a manifestation plan. It came out of probably one of the most terrifying times in my entrepreneurial speaking career because I had reached the level of one of the highest paid women speakers in probably the whole world. And top 3% certified speaking professional, blah blah blah, all the things, right? And so I'm rolling, like I'm booked solid and I'm making a lot of money. Didn't think that was going to change, but here's the biggest lesson I learned from that was something around you can change, and then you have to adjust. And back then it was 2008 financial crisis, and there was no business, like, and it was just like a pandemic. It didn't go 1 year, it went for like 5 years. And so if there's no business and they're canceling all the speakers, I got to go somewhere else. But that's all I knew. I was a one trick pony back then. Just make a lot of money speaking, show up, and that was my life. And then when it crashed, I
Yeah.
was sitting there going, "What the heck am I going to do?" I've got this expensive lifestyle, living in Scottsdale, got the fancy house, fancy car, everything, and it's like I got no money coming in. So the big lesson when you're at the top of your game, you get slapped down. I mean, I know what that's like. And then I'm thinking, how do I save it? Because I can usually turn a business on a dime, but you can't do that if there's no business. So then I started thinking, well, it is a big world out there, and there's other countries that are doing a lot better business than we were at that time. And I really thought about Australia, because Australia was trading with Asia and they were very strong in their economy. So I started going to that part of the world and started getting speaking engagements. And then I realized that wasn't sustainable to do paid and move around. Like, what country am I
Yeah.
in today? Right. And so that's when I started going to these events. Remember back then, Ursula, it was more like a pitch fest. Get people on stage, especially when they're pushing the internet stuff, and then they get on stage and they'd sell something, and then somebody else gets on stage, and it was all just a mix of everything, right? But it worked back then because people were hungry to make money any way they could, especially online. And so I was going to these events, and I remember an event in New Zealand that I went to with full of 300 or 400 people, and I'm watching these people speak, and I'm like, well, they're not speakers, they're not even good. And then they got to the sales part, and it was like, holy crap, they are killing it. I start paying attention, and then I look in the back of the room, and they're like 5 deep throwing credit cards, and I'm doing the math, and I'm like, there's no way I can make this kind of money ever as a paid professional speaker. I need to learn this. And back then, there was a few people that were teaching it. Lisa Sasevich would put hundreds of people in a room and teach it. And, I learned from her, probably one of my first teachers. But again, some puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
Then I got to be on other stages because I had, the reputation of being a speaker. So they would give me like the last spot, only woman on stage, and I'd get the crumbs that were left. And I learned the hard way. Sometimes I would fly to London and make no sales, but I was like, I have to learn this. How am I going to learn this? And then I met a gal that was on one of those tours, of those multi-speaker of tours and internet tours. And she was the only woman, all these men. And I connected with her on Facebook, and I said, "Hey, I got this booking in Ireland. You want to go? I'll refer you." And so she got on, and then I'm thinking, well, okay, I'll learn from her. We flew over there together and got to know each other, and we ended up partnering together for about a little over 2 years. I was probably on tour before that, about a year. And then she started teaching me speaking to sell. And so I said, "How did you learn this?" And she said, "I paid a coach $25,000 to teach me to master this." And, she's closing for 90 minutes from stage. She's closing 50, sometimes 100 grand. I'm like, this really is happening. Wow. And so, yeah, it doesn't matter what you invest. I'm like, I write the check as fast as I can so you can coach me through this. And then she went through all the slides like I did for you, beat me up back then. My thing was, I was a motivational speaker, business speaker, right? So I would be at that level, this, high level motivation, and then slap an offer at the end. It doesn't work like that, right? I just was
Right.
bombing. It has to be completely reverse engineered. And here's the one thing I had no idea, that even I wasn't comfortable with sales. So she was finding out that she said, your energy's like this, this motivational speaker. Then you get to sales and your energy goes like this, your voice goes down. I had no idea I was doing it. So I said, well, just, stand up in the back of the room and I'll pick my energy back up. And I just learned it. And I learned it very quickly, in a few months to really start nailing it. And then within 3 months, I did a small event with 20 people in Sedona and made $136,000. And I'm like, oh my God, now this is it saved my career. And I've never made as much money ever from the skill of speaking, learning that. But I would never have learned that, Ursula, if I didn't crash and burn first.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think we've all been there, right? We're still standing today. And what a great story on just the trajectory of that. And for those who are listening, like you might be feeling the call. It's like, how do you do that? And Debbie's you're a master at this. I mean, you've mastered it, right? And
Yes.
your confidence and just the way you inspire people and motivate them to believe that they can do it too. So I don't know if we talked about this, but so how did you go and fill those seats in other countries then? Is it through the JV partnerships that you developed?
No, because I didn't have JVs back then. So,
Okay.
think all the way back to 2008, 2009, 10, 11,
Yeah.
around then, we weren't really doing those. So what I did was I always would book when I'm doing events, book speaking engagements before I would go speak. So whatever city that was going to be in. And I'm like, I already could do that in other cities in the States. I'm like, okay. And we created the whole tour around speaking at other people's events. So they would have a networking event. They're filling every single month, bring an international expert in like myself. I do a full day workshop for them. They make money from a little percentage of the sales. The people are wowed by it. We walk away selling a $20,000 program. So that was like the model, right? So I'm like, if I can do this, I can do New Zealand. So I went and did I booked 5 speaking engagements, just small. Some were like 20 people in the room or,
Yeah.
and I just booked those in, some were like meetup groups. A couple were their speakers groups. And they were just tiny little events. And I did those and I sold like a package of like, I don't know, $300 or something that included a VIP seat and some other stuff to my event. And so they loved it because they had seen me speak. When you give a sample of you out there speaking, right? And then you invite them somewhere else, right? So even if you were doing an event to sell a retreat where they're
Right.
investing a lot of money, that's the way it works is now they've experienced you versus just online. I've been in your presence, right? And yeah, so then my goal was 75 people. I remember how scared I was signing the contract in New Zealand for that hotel because I was like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
But I trusted that every time I speak, I know I can sell something. And so that's how I filled the thing. And my assistant on her own dime flew out there because she was building send out cards and her like main gal that, got her involved. She went with her too. They belonged to BNI and they would go to BNI groups every day for like 3 or 4 days before the event, like on their own dime, they're doing this, right? Because they're building that part of the business. And so they also they got 2 other sponsors. So they were, just giving tickets away. Like she's in town,
Yeah.
you got to come. And so on their end, they were gifting tickets and I was selling a ticket. So with that, we filled the room with 2 sponsors and I made a lot of money and paid for my entire month-long trip. So, I'm doing what I love, speaking, and I'm traveling all North and South Island of New Zealand and having an event. It's like I look back and pinch myself like, so if I can do that, and the reason I like to tell that story is if I can do that, you can fill seats in your own hometown and you can make a lot of money. Imagine getting, almost a year's worth of clients in a weekend. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think back, and this is one of the interesting things. Like I remember my, 300 person events. Some of them you were probably at. And then I had my 20 person events. And it's interesting. And I'm curious on your take on this. Sometimes the 20 person event yielded more income than the 300 person event at times, just the smaller intimate. And of course, the 300
Yeah.
person event was a pitch fest, right? Like everybody was there
Right.
speaking. You
Right.
had to
It
pay
doesn't,
for it.
yeah.
That was different times. But
Right.
then smaller events, like people are like, is it worth it to invite 20 to 25 people to an event? What would you say about that?
Well, when I had 600 people in a room, like I launched big. Like we went from like local, in Scottsdale, putting on, 30, 40 people in a room, little business events. We're probably only making money from ticket sales. What do we know, right?
Yeah.
Even then, when I did 2000 January 2025, or excuse me, January 2025. How do you even say that? 2005. I can't even say that now with our numbers. And I was like an MC, and so was my other business partner that was in this event business. And we invited all the people that sold, and they were killing it, right? And we made $500,000 in a weekend.
Wow.
And everything that could go wrong could went wrong, but we still made a lot of money. But I wasn't on the stage, so I'm getting a part of the sales. That's how
Yeah.
that works, half your sales. That's the way it was back then. And then I'm like, okay, I need to learn this. And then over the years, of course, the pitch fest went away. Now people want that deep dive, and that's why that's so effective. Less people in the room, deep dive training. And what you might be thinking, I can't give away too much information. People won't buy. Here, no, you'll never be able to personalize it for them. There's no
Right.
way you're going to take, years, decades of your knowledge and put it on somebody in a couple days at a live event. They're going to experience it. They're going to get excited. And they know if they want to master it, they have to work with you. And
Yeah.
so you're spending, and at these smaller events, it's you, Ursula, on stage a day and a half or 2 days, sprinkled in with a couple speakers that don't do sales. You're the only one walking away with sales in that room. So that's a completely different model. And that's why you make more money, because the more time you spend on your stage, the more you're going to sell. And that's where I get clients. I have clients that are doing events now. Of course, I have quite a few clients that are coming to me and doing events, and they started wrong. They sold a really high end ticket, had no sales in the back of the room, or they were just randomly putting speakers on stage, and the agenda got all wonky. And there's a million things you can do wrong.
Yeah.
And I just streamline it. Like, no, this is what you need to do. I've been doing this long enough. It's like, just stick with it. And I think some people come into the business like, well, I want to create this big vision, and I want the stage to look this amazing and this VIP. And I have a client like this, and it's like it's just all the details up front. The details are the easy part. That's a fun, easy part. Right? Anybody can do
Yeah.
that. It's putting together that close and then mastering that and reverse engineering, not just that closing part, reverse engineering that entire event to
Event. Right.
fit to that close. And when I try and explain this to you as a listener, is think about the top three problems that your clients go through, right? And you are the solution. So make that offer, that solution, and you're just weaving in and seeding in how you work with clients, and you're telling them case studies at live events. I have live case studies there. And
So,
then by the time you make their offer, they should practically be drooling, right? Because like if you do it
right.
masterfully. One of the clients that will be there at my next event, his name is Glenn. Michael Millett. He came from the salon industry, and he has totally mastered. He's been with me for quite a few years. He's mastered just even one of the closes I teach, the application close, not even direct close in the back of the room. He gets on other people's stages in the big salon shows, 45 minutes to an hour. He will close consistently around $130,000, always
Wow.
over $100,000. And he's taking no money in the back of the room. It's just getting the warm leads and then masterfully doing that, and then masterfully taking them to calls and closing them into his high-end programs.
Wow. It's amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Like anything else, you've built a system to this. Like when you talk about it, it's like this is what you're able to help clients reverse engineer that system. And by the way, like I would love to be at your event. I'm going to be at a wedding in Colorado, or I've been flying there, because this would just be just so good for those if you even think you know how to do this, to review it. Some of us need to review this information because it's been a while since we've been on a lot of live stages. So I'm super bummed I don't get to be there, but I hope the listeners that are listening, if you feel the pull, and we're going to talk about it at the end, but a couple more questions. So for someone who's listening, Debbie, why do you think live events are stronger or more important than ever before? I mean, we've come
Yeah.
5 years out of the crazy pandemic, right? Like why is this important?
I believe that most of us are craving that personal attention. It's one thing about, I can listen and watch something online, but it's a very solo thing, right? It's
Yeah.
very hard to keep yourself motivated and have attention. But if you're in a room where everybody else is paying attention, and you're meeting some really cool people, then they're all like-minded because they're all there. They've
Right.
flown. I have people flying from Iceland to come from my event, right?
Wow.
And they've been to
Yeah.
my events before. And so, that's a big commitment of getting a plane, getting the hotel, getting everything there. And then, those people that make that kind of commitment, they're all in their business, and you're meeting those people that are motivated, and you meet other, and in my world, it's the expert world. So everybody's like they're really passionate about what they do,
Yeah.
and they're really smart about what they do. They pick their lane, and they're an expert at something, or they're trying to master being an expert at something. So they're all givers. and they're all like, real sponges to learn. So you're meeting some really cool people. So what happens is my audience, not only meets each other, they joint venture partner with each other, they end up doing business with each other, they end up going to their events. I mean, it just expands because I create that type of environment. And you cannot do that online. You can't be like networking and doing the kind of things you can. So is it worth it for you to take that time to get on a plane and get the hotel and come there? Yes, because you're going to get 10 times more than you could ever get from any online. And I don't know how people even sit and watch like a 3-day workshop. Like I signed up for one. I haven't been on even yet. I went to a program last year, part of it, but who could sit for 3 days, even if it's
Yeah.
3 half days online and watch? Like, I just
Yeah.
it's really hard. We want
It's screen
the
fatigue.
feeling,
Yeah.
we want the hugs, we want the connection. And again, the money that comes from just showing up from an event. I actually, and this is a point I just really want to cover, is you
Yeah.
can't create a big ticket offer if you haven't invested big. Right. So
You
some of you have invested with Ursula, you invested big. The ones of you that invested big are doing the most success. I would guarantee it, because
100%.
I learned that when I hadn't have $20,000 to invest, and it was just buying events. It wasn't even like coaching or anything.
Right.
20,000, put it on a few different credit cards. But when you have invested in yourself like that, you can ask other people to invest in you, because I wasn't getting any even mentoring back. I just went to events to meet other people that also invested big, and then they become my clients. They became to my events. It paid off in spades, because it's just it magnifies it so much more. It's hard to even explain.
Well, I would add this, that I always expect, and I tell our clients when they invest big, to get a 10x return minimum on their investment, because it's up to you.
Hmm.
If you're not going to do anything with it, you're not going to do anything with it. If you're going to, but when you invest, when you put money on the table, you're going to do something. I remember, Debbie, you'll appreciate this, because we all have these times in the business. I already had like $56,000 in debt, like on a credit card, and I just had hit rock bottom. I don't know. This was before the pandemic, but it was just like there's just this couple months were just rough, right? And I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I knew I had to hire this coach, and when you're kind of called to hire a coach, the truth is most of the time when we go to hire a coach, we don't have the 25, 30,000, forty
Hmm.
thousand dollars sitting in our bank account. It's like,
Right, because we really
right,
need them. Yeah, right.
right. So I had to roll the dice and I had to put more on the credit card. But when I did it, I remember this. And check this out. It was 30 days, Debbie. And it was only two 30-minute sessions and a half day VIP session. That was it. So a lot of people are like, wow, you paid that much. I knew when I did that what my return would be. I got more than a 10x return. Totally turned the business around. I just need someone else to get in my head for a minute. I was in my head, right? So
Hmm.
that's what's really powerful. And you talk about being online. I was just talking to a client yesterday. He's in the AI space, and we were talking about people trying to figure out, just use AI, or I'm just going to watch this class. For people who, and I've done it, you were just talking about it. When we buy classes and try to do them ourselves, the stat rate on that is only 5 to 20%.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there will actually complete it successfully. So if you want to get something done, go sit in a classroom and get it done. So on that note, Debbie, tell us, like everyone's drooling now, right? Tell us about your upcoming event. Where is it? How can they register? Tell us more.
Yeah, I'm going to cover what you just said about, going there
Yeah.
and getting it done, because that's what I believe. One of the best things is not coming home with a bunch of notes and then you just got more notes and then, become like a seminar junkie, because that's used to be the thing,
Yeah.
back in the day, right? You just go to the next thing and learn, and you don't implement anything. We're going to implement while you're there. So a
Mm.
few different things we're going to talk about is putting together your big ticket offer. So what is the highest level value offer you can? Build the value around it, and then we're going to hot seat some of those, and we're going to talk about those as a group. And if you want to volunteer to talk about that, and so people can actually see, oh, I never thought I could make money from that, and let's put this together. And what would I price that? We don't even know our own value, right? So we're going to put together your big ticket offer, because you got to have that first before you
Gotta
put
have it.
together anything. And then I'm going to teach you some speak to sell strategies. And those speak to sell strategies, one, you're going to master right there, that application close. I mean, you're going to master it, but you're going to get good enough to you get the idea of it, right? And then I'm going to have Glenn there, who has mastered that, making over $100,000, and a couple of my other clients, they're doing events this year as well. And then how their story, or how they got into event business, and then I'll have also a person there that will be teaching you events. She's been 30 years in the event business, like the detail part of it. But the pieces, then I will wrap it all up and go, we're going to actually put an event together. We're going to put an event on right there. Okay, pick the date, go to your calendar, put it on. What does it
Mhm.
look like? The theme, like you're going to do the work. You're going to leave with, oh, I got my big ticket. I've got some strategies. You're not going to master the strategies, but you have a good idea of how it all works behind the scenes from
Yeah.
speaking to sell, and then how it works behind the scenes of an event, how to put on a low cost, big profit event consistently over and over and over again. Because once you learn the skill, it just, it
Yeah.
just pays back over and over. So the name of the event is Big Money Stages. What a great name, Big Money
Woo!
Stages, right? How to make
Yeah.
money at live events. So you're going to do those works while you're there, and it's going to be awesome. And it's called bigmoneystages.com. That's the domain, right? Bigmoneystages.com. Right now, I still have early bird up there. And tickets are anywhere from $297 to $497. They're still very, very affordable. And so I kept the price at affordable price because I really want to get the people that are serious about learning it to invest in the travel and everything, get there,
Yeah.
come and have this experience, and you're going to be blown away. And again, I've been doing events for 20 years. So when I think about that, I always think about the person sitting in the room, like, how would I want to experience that? What would I want to see? And it's already in my head. Like I see it, like you would too. I see the people in the room. I see the room. I see everything already happening. Like, and your excitement and the people you're going to meet, and it's just going to be phenomenal. And I'm so excited because I haven't had that. Even myself, I'm yearning for that.
Right.
That it's almost like a high when you put on your own event,
It's
because
totally
it's,
a high.
yeah, because it's like, they're speaking on stage. It kind of gives you a little bit of high, but your own event, like you can do your own thing. You
It's
can do
the
your own,
energy of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
your own music. You can dance or not dance. You can make your big offer. You can do whatever you want to do. I love doing a lot of interaction, a lot of hot seats and stuff with people as they're there talking with
Yeah.
them. So you'll feel like you're sitting in a room just with me or a couple other people, even though there'll be 50, 60 people in the room, because of how I do that interaction. And so, yeah, I'm already seeing it. It's pretty fun. I'm excited.
I can feel the energy around it. Yeah. And that's one of the things I love about your event is it is so interactive too. And the thing, I mean, you get this listening to you, Debbie, like Debbie doesn't waste time. There's not like a bunch of like, like, like you're in it and she wants to make sure that you get the thing that you showed up to get. So bigmoneystages.com. How long have you had that URL? That's really good.
Maybe, well, last year, maybe got it in the fall.
What? That's amazing.
Because, yeah, I talked to a couple of my peers as I was going through this reinvention of what I really wanted to do. And yeah, I
Yeah.
still do expert positioning, and I do that for a lot of clients that come to me. A lot of my clients that are starting a new in a speaking or coaching business, they'll come and spend a whole year with me and do the expert positioning and get their website and their branding and learn some skills of speaking and the basics of speaking to sell. And then they come in like another year. Now I've got
Yeah.
another layer with the speaking to sell and mastering that. So it's another way to keep clients for a longer period of time,
Right.
and really create those masters that I wanted to, those superstars. And that's
Yeah.
that's what we live for, is like our superstars that we love telling their stories. And you'll have those stories like that too, those case studies, is that's what really sells
That's what
when they're on
sells.
stage, right? You
We
can
use it
talk
for,
about those on a webinar, but when they're sitting in the room and you go have a
yeah.
conversation, my clients just, they sell me. Like you're in a room, like I don't even have to sell you. I'll just say, okay, here's what I have, and I'll go through the program, right? But they're going to be having lunch with you and talking with you, and you can say, well, what's it like working with Debbie, or what's it like working with Ursula? If you're like, they bring your praises, right? So it's like live testimonial case studies in the room, which can't be better. And that's
Right.
why live events, when you do your own, you're going to get 4 to 5 times more sales, and you're going to sell the biggest ticket sale on top of it. And the reason being, because we're now put in an emotional state where we're all together and you're in a small group of people that are all committed and they're taking action. And even when you're scared to take action, you're going, I don't want to miss out. And so, that you have to really relate to the 3 different type of buyers: the emotional buyer, the strategic buyer, and the FOMO buyer, fear of missing out. And all of that happens in the dynamics of it. It's all become subconscious to me of how I do it. I've,
Yeah.
again, very masterful at it, and also masterful about teaching it in a way that I know I can't teach it to somebody in 2 or 3 months. It's going to take me 6 months to a year, either a 6 months or a 12 months. Truly, I can teach speaking to sell mastery in 6 months, an online program. But speaking to sell mastery, where you're actually doing your own event, being part of that event. I have clients now hiring me to be their closer. So I come in as the MC and I close for them because they don't have
Wow.
time to learn the skill. Right. Yeah. Then I'm taking big chunk of their sales, but they go, hey, I couldn't do it. I don't even have time to learn it. My
Yeah.
event's coming up. Would you come and do this? Yeah. And so that was a whole nother thing that happened that I just opened my mouth, said, well, I can do this. I
Yeah.
love closing. They're
Really.
like, I hate closing. I'm like, I'll close for you. No problem. I'll show up
Right.
as that magician. Right.
Yeah.
And that's really, truly masterful being able to do that. When I can hand that skill off to somebody else, it's just a magical thing because I can recreate your brand and I can build your business and I can do that. But typically most people are going to make 100,000 their first year. I have other clients making 200, 300,000, in the second, third year, or they want to get into speaking. It takes a while to build that, right?
Yeah.
The return on investment in this skill is not only massive, it's pretty quick.
Yeah. True.
Yeah,
Very
that's
true.
what I love. Definitely.
So, Debbie, for people who are interested or listening, one thing we didn't talk about is like, who is this for? Because you were talking about like
Mhm.
expert positioning and like, where do I need to be in my business for this course to pay off? And yeah, who would the
Right.
ideal client
So
be for you?
anybody that's thinking about, I want to do a retreat someday. I want to learn the skill of speaking to sell because I can't get paid to speak, right? So and again, that leverage that get both, be able to do both. But most of my clients that start out, they're going to need to get on stages. And why
Yeah.
would they just get on a stage to get better? Like practice. You don't need to do that. You get on a stage and learn how to just even master the application close. Walking away with understanding that
Yeah.
alone is going to make you so much money, and you'll have a goal every single time you speak. So even my new people will be coming in and learning this from the beginning. And then I have other people that are road warriors that have been speaking it so long that they have to build a business, and they have to build something that they can stay at home and work and do it when they want, and they're building that. So it's speakers, it's for coaches, consultants, anybody in any kind of expert business, anybody that could put people in a room, even direct sales. I mean, if you're at a high level, even direct sales, you could put people in a room, make yourself an expert that teaches health. If you're selling a product that sells health, like don't go direct into direct sales. That's where people go,
Right.
oh no, direct sales. But where I take clients that even come to me that are in direct sales, we position them as that expert. We create that high-end program for them. And then some of my clients have been in direct sales are now teachers for people that are in direct sales. So, that's just another way of looking at it. Like, what would you
Okay.
teach? How can you help people? And then I absolutely guarantee you coming there, even doing the big ticket, figuring out what that is, you're going to make money right from the get go on day one because you're not going to know that you could charge what you could charge or what you could put in a big package program.
Yeah, for sure. Like that in itself is worth showing up for. So you also have a free gift. So for those who want to get to know you as they're also wanting to come to your event, tell us
Right.
a little bit about your free gift.
Yeah, I'm going to send you to expertpositioningsuccess.com. I've been, coined as the world's number one authority on expert positioning. So that's going to talk about all of the different incomes. So it's a good place to start. Go there and see all the different incomes you can create as an expert. And then it will have an action guide. You'll download the action guide, and it has a one-page business plan. So you can actually put together your business plan, how much money you want to make based around the income streams. And why I'm so passionate to teach that is building your business is because, again, it was a one-trick pony. So I know the value of doing this. You'll also get a free copy of my book, Expert Positioning, as a download as well. And so it's a $200 value. Expertpositioningsuccess.com. I'm sure you'll put in the show notes. That's my gift to you.
Okay, cool. Expertpositioningsuccess.com. We'll get that in the show notes. And then we'll have, just to close out, bigmoneystages.com. We didn't talk about the dates and the location. So let's close
Oh,
out
that
with
would
that.
help.
Some final
Yes.
details.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How do I get there? Right. It's May 8th through the 10th. You can actually fly in on the 8th because it starts in the welcome reception. Then all day the 9th, all day the 10th. And Scottsdale, Arizona, beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. You just fly into Phoenix, and it's about a 20-minute Uber ride from the airport. So,
Yeah. So beautiful there. We have
yes.
about 2 feet of snow on the ground, just are going through
Oh
a
my
blizzard
gosh.
right now.
I
Does
can't
that
even
sound
imagine.
pretty?
It's going to be 75 today. I
Yeah.
hate to rub it in, my friend.
So beautiful there. All right, Debbie, final word. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up today?
I have to honor you, my friend. You just have no idea how many times your name comes up in our family. You talked about Greg
Oh,
early on,
yeah.
and my angel friend here was putting on an event and talk about events changing lives. She saved my husband's life with her event, and you have no idea how that has played out even beyond. I mean, so I was in San Diego speaking. You were doing your event there. I was speaking somewhere else, and Barbara Niven, our mutual friend, was there. And I called up Barbara and I said, "Oh my God, Greg is in that hurricane in Mexico. He's in the desert somewhere, stuck." And I don't, and he's actually was like crying because he always wants to help people. And he had like 2 crackers and a little bit of water, and they're stuck in, how are you going to find them in the middle of nowhere? Right. Because it was like the airport was closed, and then they had this option to take this bus, and now he's stuck in the mud. And oh, it was just awful, awful. And so you said, let's just take a moment and let's just send a message and prayer out to my friend Debbie and her husband Greg. And, and you did that. Somebody in your audience says, my stepdad works on the border in Tijuana. Please have her send me pictures and details and tell me how will I know when I find him? And I said, she's not going to find him. Like, I mean, this is crazy. And I said, well, you'll know that you'll find him, and he's in a bus. He's going to be helping people. He'll be out helping. I'm getting chills, within an hour of you doing that for that small event, helicopters came over. And Greg remembers, he was like almost in a state of shock as he came across the border, but he remembers that he felt like some magical, angels were sent to him or something when this helicopter came, and these guys jumped out, and then they came up to the group and they said, "Are you Greg?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, well, we've been sent out here to find you." And then they pulled the bus out, and he was one of the first to get out and got him across the border in Tijuana. But that happened because of you, my friend. I just want to thank you for that.
I believe in miracles. I forgot about all the details of that. Just how it was like a movie. I remember it was like a movie.
Bad movie.
A bad movie. And I just remember we were so grateful when that was crazy. It was crazy. But Debbie, that's the life, right? Those are the things that matter. You and I have been friends for a long time. We've known each other in so many different ways. And I'm getting a little choked up just thinking about this, that, for everyone who's listening, yes, it's about business, but it's about the people we've met along the way. Like that is what has kept me going all these years. Right. And I know when I'm having a hard time, I was telling Debbie before we got on, when I'm having a hard time or there's something I don't want to do, I think of you because you just get stuff done. Like you're such an inspiration of just like, make it happen, get it done, keep going. And, I just am so grateful that Greg was okay. And I'm so grateful to know you and Greg. Yeah.
We wouldn't even have known each other without events. Like, right. We wouldn't even have known that. But again, that's just kind of person that you say, just that little thing. Sometimes we don't even know that magic of, we only had 40 people in the room. It didn't even matter. There's the right person in the room. That was no accident. Right. It's just miraculous. And so, I just can't thank you enough. Like we said, we always think of you in that way, of that miraculous miracle that happened that day.
Oh my gosh. We'll give Greg a big hug. And
I will.
Just one more time for our listeners, bigmoneystages.com. To Debbie's point, I know at some of our events, people have met like their best friends, their best JV partners, it's incredible. So the magic that's going to happen is going to happen in that room. So if you're wanting to do live events this year, and if you're wanting to create that kind of magic for your clients, just go. Like if you're feeling the pull, go. It's $297 to $497. You get to hang out in Scottsdale. Go hang out with my friend Debbie Allen. Debbie Allen, thanks for being here today. We love you. We wish you so much success with that event and all your events this year. And let us know if there's anything else we can do for you.
Yeah, love you too, my friend.
All right. To our listeners everywhere, we love you. Thank you for listening. And let us know if there's a certain topic you want us to talk about. You can email us at ursula@ursulainc.co. That's it for this week, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to leave a review on iTunes so I know what you like and can create content that guides you to up-level your business even more. If you want more strategic business tips, follow me on social media. You'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and you can visit my website at www.ursulainc.co. I love being on this journey with you and can't wait to connect with you on the next episode. In the meantime, make this your most epic month yet.